bridge or anything at the time?
If it came in at the angle he's saying, that thing could have been shot 20 miles.
No,
Well,
In the
it's,
air.
it's illegal.
Ever.
right, it's illegal,
Yep.
right?
Well, that's why they tell you don't shoot anything that's skyline, because you don't know what's on the other side of that hill.
Right, right.
You know,
Anything but
they
the
should always
target.
have a backdrop for your,
It's that
whatever you're
refrigerator.
shooting at.
Refrigerator's dying.
Here's an even smarter thing. Don't shoot anything than what you want to shoot.
Period.
Right, and know what's on the other side.
And if you pull,
Know what's behind what you're shooting. Know what's behind it.
Yeah, I was.
No, you were behind me.
hey, just so you know we're live.
I know, it's okay.
That's okay. I did shoot him.
She did shoot me. They're all in the same, like,
I gotta
five,
find
eight. He's telling what's gonna happen, right? And verse 13 starts out with, it says, "Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with." Off. It's going to be a few years before this occurs, but the prophet may be speaking of it as already present in his vision of the future, because God's already shown him what's going to happen. That's why he's trying to convince these people. However, the disastrous wars of Ahaz had involved many captures of the kind referred to, and that would be in Chronicles, right? Yeah, go ahead, you do that one. Second Chronicles.
For the Lord his God delivered him into the hands of the king of Aram. There are Arameans defeated him and took many of his people as prisoners and brought them to Damascus.
Okay. And then 8.
The men of Israel took captive from their fellow Israelites who were from Judah 200,000 wives, sons, and daughters. They also took a great deal of plunder which they carried back to Samaria. And 17 and 18.
Right.
The Edomites had again come and attacked Judah and carried away prisoners, while the Philistines had raided towns in the foothills and in the Negev of Judah. They captured and occupied Roth, as well as Soko, Timnah, and Gizmo, with their surrounding villages.
Mm-hmm. Now, all those towns and things that you're discussing there, those are along a ridge of mountains, just outside of in the northern edge of Judah. Okay,
So they just went right down.
they just went right down the road.
Yeah.
And all of them were captured because of their, what we were talking about before, because of their, lackadaisical
Yes,
lifestyle.
lifestyles.
Where they got kind of comfortable.
Yes. Of your handout. It's on the very back. It's called The Disastrous Wars of Ahaz. I'm going to read it so people have it online, but you guys have it there. The 16 years reign of Ahaz was disastrous for Judah, right? It is difficult to determine whether the idolatry described in 2 Chronicles 28, right, occurred at the beginning of Ahaz's reign or was gradually introduced during its course. It was also during the transition of the reigns of Jotham and Ahaz that Rome was, so it all ties in. Who was apostasy as consequence of his reliance on what we call influential, powerful people in his under his command. Does that make sense? Okay. It was during with because of his reliance on Assyria, Isaiah Christ was given. The knowledge that Ahaz had appealed to Assyria for help induced the kings of Syria and Israel to return to their countries. He was like, oh, they're going to attack you here. You know, and I got your back over here, and then I got your back over here, right? And eventually they figure it out.
Somebody else did that in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was earlier.
King David, before King David,
Okay.
and the kings. That's what the reference was, kings, the book of Kings.
God, I could have swore we
Or was it before that even? Huh?
what did we do before Isaiah?
Genesis. It was the prophet that was wanting to help Israelites.
Right.
And he was asking God if he could do it, and God was telling him
And that's
no.
in the book of Deuteronomy.
And
Deuteronomy.
then he asked God again, and God told him
It was
no.
Balaam, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Because the donkey, yeah. He would go over here and raise his hand, yeah.
Yeah.
He was pitting two against
Yes.
each
It's one-
other. Yeah,
same thing,
okay,
right?
yeah, same thing.
And
Right.
then he finally had his eyes opened up.
Right.
Okay.
But interestingly here, you have said it's not clear whether it was at the transition or it was at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
or if it happened gradually. I think that it happened a new way. a
Yes.
few weeks
So I think it was more
Like
gradual
what,
too.
like what has been happening with the introduction of sin being okay
Right.
in the United
Over time.
States right now.
Right. Yeah, all that started back.
Way
in,
back.
Yeah.
The baby boomers.
Mm-hmm. One of the Ahaz's achievement was dedicating the valley of the son of Hinnom to Baal. All right, you guys remember this one? And what they did, it's the iron bull Baal.
Okay.
Anyway,
Was that the one where they would put the person?
Hinnom, valley of Hinnom.
Evil people prey on children.
Yes.
They prey on children. Who are evil.
Yeah. But the valley of Gehenna is still burning today in Israel. It's dump that they figured they would never ever be able to put it all out. It will continue to burn forever. Underground. That's how many. I mean, you're talking about this is 1,000 years before Christ.
That would be like some of those coal fires.
Yes, same type of principle. Yes. Okay. All right. So and then and the key phrase here I took out of this is because they have no knowledge, they do not choose to retain the knowledge of God.
It's not because they were ignorant. It
Not
was
because they're ignorant. Cultures and cults. And so there you got idolatry comes in and all the other sins come piling in, right? All right, and their armament are famished. In the Hebrew text, it is the glory of the people became people of famine. And that is, they shall be destroyed with famine. That's when you get the armament are famished.
Yeah, rags, riches to rags.
Rags, right. This was to be a punishment for their disposition at their feast. Ooh. They had these parties and feast every day, right? And God took it all away. Now you have famine. What are you going to do? Right? And the multitude, this would be the mass or body of the nation, the common people, are affected by this, right? And arid, desolate region where drink could be obtained only with difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys ever seen or look at some of the old biblical maps of the area of Judea today. There's a huge desert in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that used to be all flowing with vines and
Honey.
yeah,
Milk.
milk and honey, right? It was very prosperous. He took it all away. And it was foretold. Now, I did a note. I repeat: the people of Israel became tired and thirsty. They asked for water. Remember that when they were going around the mountains?
Mm-hmm.
Moses went to God for water, and God ordered him to strike the rock. He did, and water came out, and that's in Exodus, right?
Exodus 17:6.
Okay.
Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you imagine what would it take to bring water out of solid rock?
Well, the rock is Jesus.
Right? And the
he's
living
living
water. Right?
So when Moses smote the rock
Belief.
twice, he
It was
smoked
belief.
Jesus twice. And
Oh.
that was one of the reasons why he didn't get to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's only one time.
He didn't tell him to hit Jesus twice.
No,
He
because
said, you could smack him once.
The
get
first
water."
one was in obedience, the second was in anger.
Because he was mad at the people. Yeah. Be a leader of the people, and you can't have anger and lead.
Mm-hmm.
So it cost him. Right? Anyway, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Right? So when you say the hell hath enlarged herself, the Hebrew Sheol or Hades, like hell,
Mhm.
and self was been, I guess we say the 11, 12, depicted as a burning place of fire, right? And that's what you see on most of the Renaissance paintings and pictures and things.
Uh-huh.
But it was a place of shadow and death, right? Thou thought as being below the roots and the branches of Satan, right? And so, anyway, we can go to Psalm 16:10. You want to do that one?
I don't know if I can find it, but I'll try.
It's in the middle of the book,
I know.
somewhere there.
Do you want me to do it?
I got Psalms already.
You got it?
16:10.
Uh-huh. I got it.
Open
Isaiah.
hundreds.
Proverbs.
Hey,
Okay.
16:10.
I like Proverbs.
Okay, do that. Well, get John that one.
Because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead, nor will you let your faithful one see decay.
Okay.
49.
CDK.
49:14, I got it.
CDK.
CDK.
Psalms 49.
She was giving you a bad time.
I know.
49:14.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
They are appointed as a for Sheol.
Revelations.
Death shall be their
Oh, yeah.
shepherd. Sheol
Mm-hmm.
to consume, and there be no habitation for it.
For it, right. So, death is going to be their shepherd, and then the shadows will absorb their beauty, take away their
They
beauty,
take away their essence.
their
right?
essence, their
Their
essence,
life.
their
Uh-huh.
life, right? Essence, and so they just wander in
Darkness.
darkness. Yeah.
Jonah 2:2.
You doing Proverbs again over there?
I got Proverbs.
Oh, got Proverbs.
That's starting a verse with "and said." I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice.
Now the belly of hell, right? Which is shadow and death and darkness, right? He was inside that well.
He was in the fish's belly.
Yeah, okay. You got it.
Let's swallow them alive like the grave, and whole like those who go down to the pit.
Wow, Proverbs, right? There's a lot of references about the description of hell or Hades or Sheol in Hebrew. It's amazing.
And 30:16 says, the barren womb, land which is never satisfied with water, and fire which never says enough.
So it never ends. Constant torment, right? Okay. And then you got, it is half personified as Hades and death are in what? Revelation 6?
I got it. I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the wild beasts.
One
are gonna
fourth.
drown.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Our
numbers
dominion
are
will be
so
taken away.
small.
It's so small.
Yes, they are.
Here.
13:14. The sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and each person was judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death.
Right, now, real quick, most people don't realize that even if they've been cast into the shadow and death, and they've been condemned, they have to be judged, right? But death itself has already been condemned and judged. That's Satan, right? So, so everyone that's even, the other day we said the word purgatory, or
We did.
Sheol, or Hades, right? It's a holding place. Right? All of those.
Last shadow world of death.
Yeah, the shadow world of death, yes. Okay. It's a pretty good study if you ever want to get into it. Okay. All right, now, Habakkuk.
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 I don't have it.
Okay.
He's got
He said he had it.
All right.
Yep, indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant and never at rest. Because he is as greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied, he gathers to himself all the nations and takes captive all the peoples.
You're not gonna
Say
find
shit,
peace, you're
William.
never gonna be satisfied.
That's the key, isn't it?
You will always say, well, if only, if I could have this, or if I could do that, or if I could be here, and it's never
Enough.
enough.
And
Proverbs
then-
30:15.
Yeah, or have enough, right?
The leech has 2 daughters. Give, give, they cry. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, 4 that never say enough. And then that was the grave, the barren.
The grave, right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
land.
Land, yeah. Everybody
And fire.
complains, right? And then, okay, so how about this key phrase that says, and open her mouth without measure, as if to absorb or to consume them, as a cavern or opening the earth does without any limit. And we find that in number 16.
I can do that
Oh,
one.
you got it? Okay. 16, 30, and 32.
Numbers 16.
Mm-hmm. And 32, yeah.
32.
But if Jehovah make a new thing, and the ground open its mouth, and swallow them up, with all that appertain unto them, and they go down alive into Sheol,
Mm-hmm.
then ye shall understand that these men have despised Jehovah.
Mm-hmm.
Despised, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 31.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass, as he made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. 32. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods.
It's full of everything that.
The ground opened up and just.
So is the
It was
Hades,
like they were never there.
the Hades or Sheol,
Yeah,
the
Sheol.
holding place for the wicked,
Yes,
right?
it's for the wicked, right?
That's where Jesus went to
Went,
do his
yes,
teaching.
to teach them while he was, before he resurrected. Right. He gave everyone the same opportunity. Now, and what's amazing to me is if you guys think about this, he went into the future to offer it.
Well, the future is only for us.
Yeah, right, that's what
Well,
I'm saying. It was
I
all
don't
one.
know necessarily if that's true, because he only had to teach those who didn't have salvation through Jesus.
Mhm.
Right.
So he only needed to teach those who had died up to the time that he.
Well, and for the whole world to hear it, there would be a time period after his death too,
Okay.
because of the time it took to reach the whole world with his word.
Okay.
And we're still trying to reach people in this world.
Yeah, there's some people who still have never heard
Heard,
of Jesus.
right. Right. So would he give them
They're
the same
the
opportunity?
Senate and the Congress, right? No, I had to take my glasses off and just ponder because
Yeah.
study today.
Oh, all right.
I've been driving around the truck all afternoon,
Right.
and this guy I work with, Derek's like,
Yeah.
you know, the thing that bothers me is what's all these people's end game? They're billionaires. What more could they want? And I go, more money, but they have all the money they need. And I go, more power.
Because they're
Because
never satisfied.
They were
He,
set.
he goes, but how can they have more power? I go, they just can get it. They can start taking over APS and start taking over this, and they can burn the Bible. More power. He goes, but what are they going to do with all that power? I go, we don't comprehend that because we're of Christian beliefs. We believe there is a God. To
Yes.
them, more power equals closer to God
Yes.
because they just don't get it.
No.
More power means that they're more God-like.
They feel
Right.
more
Yes.
godly.
But they're not.
So then I broke it down. I go, you know, like in James Bond, the master guy has like the huge city underwater and everything,
Right.
but he still wants to take the world's hostage.
Right.
The dude has enough money to build a city
Underwater.
in the ocean that could come up and go down and turn around, but he still wants more money. I said, Austin Powers, his whole criminal organization owned Starbucks, but yet he still wanted $1 million.
Yeah.
I go, we don't comprehend that because for them, once you get, you want more,
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 right.
more.
Because-
It's the more
because-
culture.
Right, because you're never satisfied.
And then he brought up Isaiah, and then we started talking about all yeah, it was just like you said before. If I'm not at church, it doesn't matter because I'm at church at work,
Right, because we're supposed to be the church.
but only on break time.
Right.
Only when I'm on break.
Wow.
And that's where you were. Break.
We were just driving to the next siren.
Right. And get out and do your job.
As
Right.
for me, it's anytime. Come get me.
Okay.
I just thought that when you said, yeah, it's never enough for them. I went, wow, we just talked about all this.
Well, consider, you're in your late 70s. You've got one foot in the grave. I mean, because late 70s is not old in this time frame, but this person has one foot in the grave. And you still,
Want more.
still.
And as they take their dying breath, they'll still be grasping for another fistful.
Or something.
Something.
They wouldn't need that much if they didn't have the big families. Right?
All right, Chad. I am not going to get the flint out and start this.
Anyway, I just had to throw that out there.
I know, that's
Just
true
a
though. no?
funny, come on.
We just had a conversation about when I work outages, I'm not at church, but I am.
Right. Right.
I'm pastoring
Do you, but
everywhere I go.
do you see how it becomes part of you?
Oh, absolutely.
Wherever I go, I'm like, it's just, but it's okay.
It is.
Because he gives me the answers, right? He goes, you shut your mouth and I'll talk.
It's the insight.
And it works, right?
It's the insight. It's that, you know, like the Thundercats, you get sight beyond sight.
Sight, right. Mm-hmm.
But I don't need a sword. Well, I do. It's Jesus' sword.
It's
that
his sword.
He's given me. That's.
You know, he's never lost a battle.
Imagine that.
Did you ever think about that? Christ has never lost a battle. I'm like, I want him to fight for me, because I don't want to have to do that.
Undefeated, man.
Right? It's pretty cool. Anyway, I like it. All right. And their glory, well, this is a term that was in there. This is their glorious ones, their nobles, the princes, the rulers, the civil, and
Ecclesiastical.
That one, right? Which were the glory of the nation. Because if you think about it, the nations were developed by the 12 tribes. 12 tribes were all Abraham's offspring, right? So they were all being glorified, given high positions, and they were the glory of the nation. Think about it. It was established under God, right? So, and their multitude, meaning the common people, are rather the great and honorable ones, and in which sense it may be used in the preceding verse, Isaiah 5:13. Not of the poor, but wealthy, upper rich, in context speaks such who indulge themselves in luxury and pleasure. Isaiah even separates and says there'll be a remnant of the common people.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that still follow the laws, the ones that
The
still
ones that live above their means.
have their means that are going to have to pay the price, yes. Or they're rejecting his laws and his commandments, right?
Well,
Right.
it says luxury and pleasure.
Yeah, luxury and pleasure.
You know, there's going on a nice vacation,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's constantly practicing that when you don't have
Right.
When you
the
pretend.
blessings.
Pretend, yeah.
When you're
Yes.
trying to keep up with the
Just-
whoever's is.
yeah. Or, I'm sorry, we don't want to insult Joneses.
I know some nice Joneses, and they're not these people. So
Right.
That's why I said the somebodies.
There's somebody's, there you go, right? Yeah.
So my Karens became Vanessa's, the one, because it's Vanessa who now calls me and tells me my car warranty is
Yes.
expired.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, because I. That's you know, that you can't afford.
Right. Why would you want the pompous? Yeah.
And he allows some people to be more blessed than others because they can handle it.
Right. Yeah, they can utilize it. Yeah. But if they misuse it, he takes it away.
That's what I mean by handle it. They
Mhm.
don't go, look at this. Now I'm going to go
They
through
stay.
that.
They stay humble.
Yes.
They stay humble with what
Stay
he's
humble
blessed them.
as he keeps giving.
They give it out.
That's always the.
Mm.
If you can stay humble with this, then you'll get some more.
More, right?
God always gives us what we need.
Yep. That's
Never
true.
more than what we need. Exactly what we need.
Yeah,
When we need
it, right. And the key phrase is, and their pomp, right, which is truly signifies noise and tumult.
Mm-hmm.
The Targum renders it, designs noisy and tumultuous ones, who sing and roar, halloo, and make a noise at feast. Right? You ever met those guys?
Boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't
Boasting.
stop at pomp.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
pompous A.
Okay.
They boast and
Pompous
pound their
and,
chests and puff their
assuredly.
chests out. And
Right. They are maybe called sons of tumult or tumultuous. Say that word there.
Tumultus.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Good.
How come you didn't get it?
I don't care.
'cause
My teeth don't work that way.
Dan
Because he's
always
got
gets
Moses' tongue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got, okay, Aaron, start speaking. I got Dave over there preaching to the choirs, all right, so.
Mm-hmm. We're
That's
covered.
funny.
He blessed with me. I can't
He-
do all English.
He made me
trust me.
dyslexic,
I can't,
so I'd
yeah.
have to study harder.
I cannot diagram a sentence to save my soul.
I can diagram a sentence.
No,
I could put the
I cannot
punctuation
do
and everything
that.
in.
Oh, I can do that. I cannot diagram
got
a
Jeremiah.
sentence.
I can
yeah.
diagram, I can actually
No.
outline it.
David's
Typing
got
it is
Jeremiah.
different than
Yeah,
saying it.
Jeremiah.
Yes,
Not this
you're
one.
right.
And reading it and saying it in your mind is different than it coming out of here.
So I gotta rewrite books 3 times to make it sound correct.
Sometimes
So-
I just go, oh, Cause I know what the word is, and you can't say it. Anyway, alright, so let's go on.
So
You
Jeremiah,
do Jeremiah?
I got
You
Jer-
got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it.
Go ahead.
48, Jeremiah 48, verse 45.
Right.
They that fled stood under the shadow of Heshbon because of all the force. But a fire shall come forth out of Heshbon, and a flame from the midst of Shinon, and shall devour the corner of Moab, and the crown of the head of the Tumultuous.
Tumultus.
Yeah,
Tumultuous.
tumultuous. Is that how you said it?
Yes.
Get it
Yes,
right.
that word, tumultuous.
There you go.
Tumultuous.
I just said it. Don't make me say it again.
Don't put an R in there.
He's actually right,
Oh.
tumultuous.
Tumultuous.
There's an-
Tumultuous.
Yeah, there was an extra U in there, I didn't catch that. Nice catch, Dave.
So
Alright,
the,
anyway.
the boasting.
The boasting ones get burned by fire.
Yeah.
Well, their whole head.
Yes.
These people, their little quarter gets burned, but those people,
No. Send into hell.
Yeah, they get cut.
eventually.
Well, they don't go to hell first, they go to Sheol.
Holding tank.
Jail. Sheol.
And
Holding tank.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
be good, because this is what's gonna happen to you.
Right. He was.
Maybe it's just like a prison system. Where there's
Hades,
different
yeah.
wards for different
Different
crimes,
levels?
different sinners,
Mm-hmm.
levels of sin.
I'd like to study that out sometime.
I think we should, huh? I'll see if I can't do a big research
Well,
paper on that.
well, wouldn't that be like the different levels of hell?
Well, there's
'Cause that
supposed to
would- that
be
would be the way
different levels
that
of
would-
heaven.
Heaven, there's 9
Yeah.
levels.
Not at the Gentiles are not at the top. We're outside the city.
Right, well, maybe it's just set up like a penal colony where God just throws them down there, whatever they want to do. If they
Like
want to set
Lord
up
of-
little
It's just
cities,
souls.
of hell cities, let them set it up.
Yeah.
And I'm done with you. Do your thing.
We can't have you up there. You can't be in heaven if you're not righteous.
If you're unorganized and chaotic, that's on you. If you decide to build walls in your own little kingdoms, have at it. I don't care.
You know, I'll bet you somebody who listens to our Bible study has the
I bet they do. They can send us
answer. Just text us.
Just send us a message.
Yeah, send us a message.
We like ideas too.
Oh, yeah? We take in all.
Just help Dan and I make our movies in our heads.
Yes, we do. Yes.
I
can
think
see
of
this
hell
one.
as a mining colony. You know?
Right.
They just throw all these people there, and then some of them make little houses, and they make their own little walls, and they go get their own little slaves, and they do their own little thing, and other people are just chaotic and lay around and are lazy, and
And then you have some that are still working.
yeah. And there's murders and
Yeah. You would.
this is and that's.
That's everything's there.
you go.
It's all
Horrible-
there.
Horrible place to go. Oh, while you're on fire. Horrible place to be.
And there's no water to put it out, right?
Well, no, there's
I
definitely
think
no
that's,
living water.
Right.
Where we are.
All right, so, and he that
Toilet paper,
rejoiceth.
not toilet paper.
The last one, it says, key phrase it, and he that rejoiceth, I can't say it.
Joyce,
Yeah,
you
that
got
one.
it.
Shall descend into it, indicating those at the feast and banquets in the land of the city shall descend into hell or the grave.
Mhm.
They're all gonna be judged,
Right.
right? So 15 says, and the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled,
Mhm.
and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled, right? When the mean man shall be brought down, that means to hell or the grave, as well as the rich and the noble. Everybody's gonna be judged the same, isn't it?
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if you're rich or not, or you're mean or evil, right? The mighty man shall be humbled, laid low in the dust, and be equal to the poor, for in the grave princes and peasants are alike. That's what that means. It
Mhm.
also can mean that they shall be all alike in the same low and miserable condition. Why would you have any,
Yeah, it doesn't matter
where you come
whether
from?
you've got money or you don't have money, whether you're haughty or you're poor.
The grave doesn't care.
It's your character that puts you in the grave, low in the dust.
Mhm. And you're gonna be judged on that part of it. Right? No?
Oh, I'll keep my big mouth shut.
You got something to say there?
I'll keep my big mouth shut.
No, you need to say something.
Well, it would be kind of like them handing these kids all these excuses now instead of making them take responsibility
Responsibility.
for their actions.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Never hold your
Participation trophy. That's what started it.
It's a
Oh,
good,
that was on the radio this morning.
Participation trophies?
That's what it was about, yes. That's what it was about.
Hmm.
It was fatherly advice, that's what it was.
Oh, 'cause of Father's
on-
Day
on
coming up.
Caleb.
Actually, I heard it on KNIX.
Oh,
But they probably heard on Kayla first and then talked about
No, Brooke,
well, on Caleb, they called it dad advice.
it. Mm.
yeah.
okay, all right, ready? All right.
Sure.
And the eyes of lofty shall be humbled, right?
Mhm.
When famine, distress, ruin, and misery come upon them, then shall the pride of those be abased. What, they got children leading them, nobody knows what to do,
Mhm.
got nobody, I mean, so their pride is like, gone, right? Has no substance, right? It also can mean that, those who boasted of the riches and honor of their descent and parentage,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yes.
As the children of Abraham, as being free men and never in bondage, boasting of their righteous and good works.
Right.
So, what was the mistake there?
Boasting.
It's boasting.
Take,
It's in
I'm
the Bible
I'm
not
the
to
direct
boast.
descendant of Abraham, so you've got to respect me.
Look at me.
Yeah, look at me.
Respect is earned.
Well, and I know that the inhabitants over there, you know, your rights to land, and everything goes back to the laws of Moses. You know, every 50 years, the land's returned to the original owner, debts forgiven, you know, and all that. Well, that's where that comes into play, because that heritage, you know, and these people think they ought to have a bigger share, is what it came down to. They were buying other people out. Remember when he talked about they were buying up the other houses and the other fields?
Even
Yeah.
as brothers, they did that.
Yes.
Even as brothers, when they wanted the blessing,
It's true. It happens that way, right? All right, so the 16 says, "But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness, and hosts shall be exalted in judgment." The Lord of hosts is meant Christ, or the Lord of the armies, the Lord of hosts, right? He's given command over everything, correct?
Yep.
All right, so, and the inhabitants of the earth and the angels and of men are under his jurisdiction. Because he made, God gave him the earth as a footstool. That means full control, right? It's under his command, right? Who was condemned by and through our nature. He was condemned by us, wasn't he? Right? And to his state of humiliation, I mean, he was whipped,
Crown of thorns.
crown of thorns, all that humiliation, right? Was brought very low and yet is now highly exalted. The exaltation of him is seen and known. It is here foretold that it should be by his judgments inflicted on the Jewish nation for their contempt and rejection of him. And that's in Psalms 9:16.
Do you have that one, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
9:16 says, Psalms 9:16 says, "The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands." I don't know how to say that. It's the end of the song
Haggaean.
verse.
Yes.
So it's probably something that's
Haggaean.
Haggaean.
Salah.
Salah.
Yeah, and always.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's going to be in control. Period. It's his judgment, his rule. Right?
Mhm.
And I think that's pretty amazing that Isaiah's telling them this earth's going to go up.
Mhm.
Everything. follow those and you would be blessed, right? They messed up a good thing, if you really think about it.
Yeah, what was their end game? What were they out for?
Well, right? All right, and then, right, God that is holy shall be sanctified. Now, the holy God sanctifies himself through righteousness. He is righteous. That's why we can't be a sinner to be there, right? We have to be found righteous, and then we do that through the blood of Christ, right? So God sanctifies himself. He compels the recognition of his divinity by the righteous judgment in which he reveals his true nature as the Holy One of Israel. And that's Isaiah 29.
Are you going on?
Oh, do we need to stop?
Yes?
Okay, I'll stop. I was just finishing up that
I have
last.
a question that, like, it kind of goes along with this.
Mhm.
So there was only 2 tribes left at the end, right? Judah and
Samaria, right?
Derek said it was Isaiah, but I don't think, or not Isaiah, yeah, Isaiah, but I don't think that's the second.
Dan wasn't there.
What happened to
Gad
the
was
other 10
gone.
tribes?
Well, they all got absorbed.
Yeah.
Dan is gone,
Right.
wiped out. Gad is gone.
That was those 2 were the first 2.
Right,
Yeah.
and then two of the tribes went over the Caucasus Mountains and settled Europe.
So they
Merged.
But did they really? Because the Bible never really says what happened.
You can,
So we had a long discussion about, well, it probably did, so in God's eyes and to tell the family story of Jesus, it really doesn't matter what happened. Is it possible that some of those became Muslims?
it is possible some of them became Asian. So
Right.
we have we have that.
I gotta need to
You
bring that
said
chart.
you said eventually we were gonna do a study on that
Yes.
whole chart.
Yeah, because we
so-
got into a thing about, for in my mind, because that's all I know. Derek's a little more Bible study from
Mhm.
like the military
Well-
school he went to. But could those be some of the, even if Palestinian is actually an Italian word that's not even whatever.
Right.
But are those, and that's why they think they claim right to the land of Israel, because they're somewhere in their lineage is
One of those.
tribes.
Right. Yeah, the tribe of Benjamin.
The youngest.
Yeah, of
Son.
Joseph.
Anyways, we do have that. We should.
Yes. And we should do a
Just had that question.
Most of the next 30 chapters, 35 chapters of Isaiah, is a repeat of the same thing over and over.
Mhm.
I'm not kidding. I looked at that and went, okay, so I just
Over
copy
there.
it from there and put it over there.
Okay.
It's the same thing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, for
Well, they have a
38,
long history of making dumb decisions.
yeah, 38,
Unfortunately.
38, well, Isaiah wrote these prophecies for kings. That's how long it goes on. He keeps coming back, and every time they change kings, he starts over again.
He keeps doing course correction.
Yes.
He's doing
trying.
redirect
Yes.
conversations with them.
Yes.
And it brings some of them back.
Back, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing redirect conversations right now.
Yeah.
I mean, abortion, for example.
Mm-hmm.
All these young kids who are putting out their of a personal situation, you know.
So this says Benjamin and Judah were two
Last two,
two
right?
tribes.
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, I thought you had
You
said
said
Benjamin
Benjamin,
became
yeah.
a month.
No.
No.
Oh, it came to you that it was Benjamin was one of the last
Right.
two, because we're trying to figure out.
No, he's the one that said Benjamin. Ben,
Okay.
you said, is it possible one of them could have been Muslim? And I said,
Right.
it's
Well,
possible.
Okay.
The offspring of Hagar. Arabia
Mhm.
and Egypt is the
When Reuben, did you say?
No.
Simeon?
no, we're talking after Abraham. Had Abraham send her away?
Yes.
East side of the Nile, which is Saudi Arabia, and he becomes a prince. Of law.
Businessman of the law.
Right, but he taught him God's law, and then he adapted it to his purpose. Now, some of this stuff in their I call them the radicals.
And
The extremes.
the chapter after chapter of why it's okay to behead the infidel.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's kind
Well,
of like Satan's Bible.
He was doing that to maintain his power and control, wasn't he?
Mhm. How much is enough?
Yeah.
What's the end game?
Again, it's back to the same thing, right? But that's
That's
the
such a good
original.
question.
Well, he was promised that he would become the father of nation. And well, he became the father of the prince of Saudi.
Just added a few percent.
I didn't think of that.
That you want.
All right.
She's
What about
making me.
praying tonight?
Ignite that